Okay, so lesson plan for today is how to sound like toro e moi. Hey, what's up? It's Cobeau, and you just heard my remake of Toro e Moi's new house. Today I'm going to be showing you not only how I recreated that beat, but also how you can get that classic chillwave Toro sound. So let's go. So for the guitars, there are two guitar parts. One is the Toro guitar, and the other is the J guitar, which is basically just my guitar because my name starts with J. The Toro guitar part is the main melody of New House, and it sounds like this. So for the Toro guitar, I doubled the guitar, so I did two separate takes and had one take panned hard left and had another take panned hard right. Processing wise, I just really took out the lows, a little bit of the highs over there, did some light compression, and added a reverb to put it in some space. And onto the J guitar, very similar processing wise, it's just that the lows, I took out a lot more of, not a lot, but I took out more lows to give the J guitar a more airy feeling, light and airy feeling, I should say, and added a slightly different reverb just to give it a more shimmery space. Also, melody wise, this guitar came about by accident because I found when finding the notes, when finding the notes to play for the Toro guitar, I found the notes, it's just that I played them out of order. And I quite liked how it sounded with the Toro guitar, so I kept it, and this is how they sound together. Each drum sample I chose is actually a lo-fi sample, as you can see from the names of all these. It says lo-fi, lo-fi, lo-fi. So here's that, here's the kick, the snare, and the hi-hats. And you'll notice that I have each of these samples on a separate track instead of in a drum rack. And I do this mainly because I like playing with the hi-hat pitch really quickly, and putting it in a simpler allows me to do that. And so here's an example of that. And all together they sound like this. For the synth pad section, I'm going to start with the pads. I have two main pads that just follow the main motif of New House, the main sound, the main melody, I should say, motif, the main melody of New House. And here's the first pad. And that just has some like Camel Crusher on there just for some slight saturation. Then pad 2, it's the same chord progression, but just different sound, just to keep it interesting for the listener. Next we have this key up here, and it's really just supporting the main Toro guitar in terms of the melody, but it's also slightly different because instead of repeating all of the main melody, it's repeating only just like a few notes and then doing its own thing, and this is what that sounds like. And as you'll notice, it has also a very airy feeling, because that is a theme that I wanted to have throughout the song. Processing wise, I just have this auto pan here and an EQ to again take out all the lows to keep that airy feeling. Next we have synth 2, which sounds like this. And this is a synth that I made in Serum but froze out, I should say. So I can't really show you that, but EQ wise, just took out again all the lows, and that was pretty much it. Melody wise, you'll notice it has a down stepping motion, and I did that mainly because I wanted the listener to feel or have this sense of falling, and so that's why I did that. It's also panned a little bit to the left. Next we have synth 1, which sounds like this. And again, it was just another CRM patch that I made and froze out. And again, EQing, took out all the lows, and that was pretty much it. Melody wise, you'll notice that it copies key 2 or key 1 over here with that repeating note. And again, the main intro melody to that is a little bit different. It's panned a little bit to the left, or to the right, I should say, to balance out with synth 2. And all together, these synth pads, the synth pad section sounds like this. All right, next up we have the bass. This is very, very simple. It is a sine wave. And here it is. Okay, so yeah, that's the bass. It's just EQ to like take out those like sub frequencies that we can't hear, and just lightly compressed with this compressor. Now onto effects. It's really not that many effects. It's really just one effect, and it's just this reverb reverse of a note, and it sounds like this. I can't even give you more than that. I honestly forget what this was, but essentially it was just a note that I played on one of these synths pads over here, and I just reversed it. So this is what that sounds like. All right, so we have two vocals. One is the house phone and one is the main vocal, which I have as sample vocal over there. For the house phone, it's just the vocal trying to sound like it's coming through a telephone. So I have this auto filter set to a bandpass filter around 2k hertz, or 1.5k hertz, bumped up to the resonance, added some overdrive to give it some extra crunch, and this is how it sounds.
I want a brand new house, something I cannot buy, something I can't afford.
Next we have what would be essentially the main vocal, and something interesting about the vocals in New House is that they're very choppy and kind of like off kilter. So I tried to emulate that by chopping off the ends of the words so it gets that weird chopped up kind of feeling. And so this is what that sounds like. Been on fast light all day. And so yeah, you could see, or if you know the song New House, it sounds very similar to that in that chopped up quality. How I got the vocal to sound like this in general, I'll probably make a separate video going more in depth on this vocal chain. You can see it's a bit extensive, but initially, or essentially, I just have some tuning, auto tuner, just to give it that synthetic kind of vibe. An EQ over here, just giving it more body, boosting the highs for clarity, taking out some dirty mids. I have this serial compression, some serial compression going on. One to squash the vocal, one to bring out the like mids and highs, and a glue compressor to kind of just glue it together. Next we have a gate, which gets rid of any like ground noise and whatnot. Normally you would put this before the compressors, but I have it after because I liked how some of the artifacts were coming through. Next, it's a multiband compressor, but it's acting as a de-esser. To de-ess, again, those like frequencies right there. Then I have a pedal to make it a little crunchy, a chorus to add some modulation and put in like this kind of weird space. A delay is acting more as like some stereo width, and we have this other delay here. It's really a ping pong delay, if I'm not mistaken, that automates somewhere at the end over here. 'Cause I'm on my own. That ping pong delay over there. Oh, it's not even ping pong, it's just a nice delay. But it sounds nice. And then again, I just have, and finally I should say, I have this limiter that's just cranking it up. So altogether, that vocal sounds like this. Sign out of the terminal. JFK is a different animal now. But yeah, and again, I'm going to be making a separate video that just goes over that whole vocal chain in a bit more depth than what I just did just now, because I just really just flew through that passively. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how I recreated New House. So let's just run that back from over here. Here it is. Phone's been on blast light all day, trying to test me. Got anxiety.